All right, what's up, viewers? Welcome to a new episode of Spartan Ownership, and today we have guest Phil Ross on the show, and we'll be talking about a wide variety of topics, ranging from today's climate of masculinity to RKC, kettlebells, training, everything this man is good for. And Phil, just a little bit about yourself, because I'm sure you can present yourself better than I could at this moment.
All right, sure. I'll just give like the Reader's Digest version to everyone, Max. I've been in combat sports for over 40 years. I'm 53. I'll be 54 in October. I competed on a national level and successfully in Greco-Roman wrestling, kickboxing, karate, taekwondo, and submission fighting, like in the Naga circuit. I was a coach in the UFC for 4.5 years. Had guys in the Bellator. I got a couple Emmys right now. It's not my main thrust though anymore. I've had my martial arts and fitness studio since 1988. So I've been in the business for a little while. I worked in security, was a bouncer for about 20 years, at the same time, obviously, and was a professional bodyguard, executive protection agent. Did that for about 15 years. And currently, I have a new book out regarding a lot of that stuff called Survival Strong. It's got defensive tactics, body weight strength, taking ownership of your situation. There's a lot of information on mindset, awareness, avoidance, self-protection, so forth, all throughout the book. We even get into mass hysteria, because I've been in a couple of pretty hot situations. And I managed to live, so I guess I did something right. Again, I competed on a national level from 1979 till 2010. So I had a pretty long career. I'm in one of Frank Shamrock's books, MMA for Dummies. Did probably 7 seminars with him as his assistant. And we can keep going, but I think guys kind of getting the idea. So.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And as you were talking, I couldn't help but the thought came up of you ever heard of what's his name? Joffrey? I don't know if I'm saying this right. Thompson?
Joffrey Thompson?
Yeah. He came out with a book called Watch My Back. He was also a bouncer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's a bouncer.
Now that I think I've heard of it. Yeah. He came out a while ago.
Yeah, he wrote a lot of books about, I think, like his experience as being a bouncer and stuff.
Yeah.
And Are you familiar with Kali?
He's Kali? Yeah, absolutely. One of my instructors in college was Pat Finley, who was ranked directly under Dan Inosanto in his system.
Yeah.
So I trained with Dan back in 1982. Wow.
So I saw him not too long ago, by the way.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I went to one of his seminars.
Yeah. He loves kettlebells too.
Yeah?
Oh, big time.
Awesome. Yeah, he was like 83, I think. I think he's 83 right now.
Yeah, he's like I think he's about 30 years older than me.
Yeah. And he's like he moves pretty swiftly for his age though.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't he like Bruce Lee's protege or something?
He was Bruce Lee's training partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty epic right there.
Yeah, it is. That's how I even went down. I trained with Larry Hartsell. I trained with Francis Fong, a whole bunch of those guys back in the 80s.
Beautiful. So you got a lot of experience in that domain, which is, you're a warrior, which is
been there. Yeah.
Awesome, man. And so my question is, and this is one that comes often in martial arts training because a lot, like when I first started doing martial arts, before I joined the school, the secretary basically asked me, what is my reason for wanting to train? I guess it was their protocol to ask people.
Sure.
And I knew right away why I wanted to train, which is I wanted to basically be able to neutralize any opponents within a stressful situation. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, because a lot of my viewers, they don't want to just train and become fit, which is kind of I'd say the mediocre response that a lot of people give, because it's like they just want to go to martial arts just so they can work out. But it's like you're missing out on a lot of other things you could do as well.
Right.
And so, which is basically you could become able to survive, neutralize people that pose a threat to you or your loved ones. So With that being said, what do you think is the most, I guess, effective martial art or just way of training that puts you in that position?
Well, actually, I go into this quite in depth in my book because that's a question I'm often asked. I base everything on what really works in the street. I was a wrestler. Mm-hmm. I was a Division I wrestler, University of Maryland, and I also have a boxing background. I used to box out of Costello's in Patterson, New Jersey. My grandfather was a trainer at Paul Cavalier's gym back in like the 50s and 60s. Mm-hmm. So he started training me when I was a kid. Just learn how to use my hands right and so forth, boxing drills, hitting a heavy bag the proper way, skipping rope, and so forth and so on. And I found that when most street situations I had would wind up either throwing a couple strikes and taking the guy down, or me taking him down and getting into a little ground and pound. We didn't call it ground and pound back then because there was no UFC or anything. We just call it oil rigging him. Like oil rig, bang, 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 bang when he's on the ground.
Right.
And then when I learned martial arts, I would kick him, punch him, then take him down. So, I said, what really works? So, I think one, you need to know how to wrestle. Mm-hmm. Okay? Wrestling is the toughest high school sport that there is, bar none. Wrestling gives you that grinding mentality, that hard work ethic, and even if you're getting beat up in a wrestling match, you still kind of got to hang there unless, you just go and get pinned. But, you're always struggling. Boxing, man, boxers move great. Hand speed, the shifting, the movement, the getting hit, the hitting. You're both getting a lot of contact in boxing and wrestling. Okay? Back in the days, in the old days, like Taekwondo was pretty badass back in the day. And, over years it's become watered down to appeal to more people.
Right.
But, Taekwondo's got the best high kicks that there are. Mm-hmm. I'd say Muay Thai has the best low kicks that there are. Cut kicks and rip kicks and so forth. And of course, boxing for the hands, wrestling for takedowns and staying on your feet. Because, even though I'm a grappler and a wrestler by trade, going to the ground in a street fight is generally not recommended. Right. Sometimes you have no choice. But who generally wins that fight when you go to the ground? The guy with the most friends. And if you ever see me up close, I got a bunch of scars here and a couple places because, I got in a situation with about 6 guys, and I was on the short end of that stick. I took a guy down with a double, and his friends decided to do a tarantella on my head and back. So that's, if you can avoid that, that's great. But sometimes you can't. If you're getting the daylights beat out of you on your, in stand-up, then you better take them down. And I think you really need to know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu too. Some really good applicable jiu-jitsu skills to go along with that, because sometimes you have to, if you are going to the ground, you got to sub him quick, get it over with, break his arm, snap his leg, choke him out, and then move on. Some of these arts, the Krav Maga is pretty good as an art, but I think it's lacking some things. But again, it depends on the instructor. Some of these guys are incredible, and some guys are, Some of the other arts are like the self-perfection arts. Nothing against them. They all have their place. Right. Some of the like Kitos and some like Kung Fus, they leave a lot to be desired for real street application.
Right.
If you look at martial arts, put them into 3 categories. You got self-perfection, like, Tai Chi, some of the Kung Fus. There are some hard-style Kung Fus as well. Aikido, things like that. You have sport. You have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, wrestling. Those are like the sport combats, boxing. Those are sport combats. And then you have self-preservation, which is a bona fide defensive tactics system. Okay? Stuff that works. Mm-hmm. And, basically, if you're in a street situation, your goal should be to dispatch the person in 3 to 5 seconds. Rarely have I ever been in a street encounter that's lasted more than 10 seconds. Okay? And I've been in quite a few of them.
Especially being a bouncer, I could imagine.
Yeah, and I'm not the biggest guy in the world, so being a bouncer for 20 years and an executive protection agent, I got my chance to see what worked.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work. And I worked in some bad places too. I worked in Hell's Kitchen in the city. I worked downtown DC. I worked in biker bars. I worked in strip clubs. I had some times out there.
And you're saying that basically most of the confrontations you've had in those situations rarely lasted more than 10 seconds.
Yeah, rarely.
So, yeah, can you elaborate more on that?
Sure. Well, unless it was a control situation, like because most of the times as a bouncer, you have to control them. But there were times when you had to just drop them. Like if someone throws a punch at you, you parry it and you have to tag them back. Where it'd be more of a control situation, I'd probably slap them. Because here's the thing: when you're doing control, what I say is that when people learn jiu-jitsu, and I love jiu-jitsu. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty high ranking in combat jiu-jitsu. You have to earn the right to use your jiu-jitsu. So what do you mean by that? Well, you have to dummy them up. You have to crack them to allow you to put a lock on somebody. You ever wrestle or do jiu-jitsu with anyone?
Yeah, like I've been doing wrestling for about 3 months now.
Yeah, how hard is it to control somebody?
What do you mean, like when you have them?
It's tough. It's kind of tough when you got both guys are standing to try to control somebody.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just think, if you crack them, knock them down, or dummy them up a little bit, it's a lot easier to apply your technique. Mm-hmm. So that's why you have to earn the right to use your jiu-jitsu.
Ooh, I like that. That's a little golden nugget. I like that.
It's in the book too.
Earn the right. Awesome.
Earn the right.
So you basically, you're saying that at first you would kind of strike them in order to almost, would stun be the right word?
Yeah, I want to loosen them up, stun. You can do that. Loosen up, stun. If they grab you, I'd strike them to loosen them up. We call it to loosen the grip. Or you can use a stun, a distraction. Heck, a lot of times, we have our set combination, and you hit him so hard with the first shot, it's out. He's out. It's over. Right. So you just we're
right.
But then you would go on to a lock. If it's an area I have to get a guy out of. Mm-hmm. Well, I just can't sit there and pummel his head into the ground, even though it was a lot different now than it was in the 80s. Because, one time my wife and I were driving down the highway, we were going out, and she says, we had it on the 80 station on Sirius, and I'm jamming to it. She goes, she's a little bit younger than me. She goes, "You love the 80s, didn't you?" I go, "Yeah." And she goes, "Why? What was your favorite thing about the 80s?" And I go, "No surveillance cameras." Mm. You kind of get away with anything you wanted to. So now you have to be careful. So you have to be conscious of that, especially if you're in, a bouncer or bodyguard. Mm-hmm. You can't just sit there and gouge somebody's eye out, right. Or kick them in the head when they're on the ground. Mm-hmm. You have to subdue them, and then take them out of the establishment. And that's when you're going to apply your locks and chokes. I mean, the last time I was bounced. Last time I bounced really was in 2004. Mm-hmm. Last time I got in an incident was in 2004. And okay, you want an example?
Sure, I would love one.
Okay. Guy was about 6'3", and I'm about 5'10". The guy's 6'3", pretty big guy, and he's beating a snot at this guy 5'7", just punch him in the head. He's holding him and hitting him. So I come running over. I'm like, "Hey!" So I smack him in the shoulder and spin him. I have this move where when I'm squared up, I hit one shoulder, step, when you read the book, you'll see it. Step, and I come behind, hit him in the throat, and I put him in a rear naked choke from behind. A standing one, which I call a 4-point choke. And then I kick his back knees out, and I got him in my choke, and I drag him out of the establishment. And he was with two friends, and I said, "Come on, boys, we're all going." So they all left. They didn't give me any issue. But that's the last time I really, had to lay my hands on somebody.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I was actually curious because, like you were saying about Kung Fu and all those arts, they're not necessarily always the most realistic. They're more discipline arts. And when you go out in the street, you don't necessarily have the survival skills that you need, right?
Yeah.
And with that being said, because even if you do wrestling or you do Muay Thai and kickboxing, you still kind of feel yeah, I have the skill. I've been sparring with a lot of guys, but I haven't gotten in any real reps. So I think being a bouncer really helped you with that because it put you in real situations. So would you recommend that some guys, if they really want to experience or apply some of the techniques they learned, that they should do like, maybe some bouncing for a few months to kind of, do you ever feel like that should be a good experience for men?
Well, there's nothing like being tested under fire, but make sure that you're prepared first. There's a thing I call IT, not internet technology, but instinctive technique. And what you do is you develop that instinctive technique from repetition, which gives you the muscle memory, and you're just going to be able to react. Like here, if someone goes and chokes you, or throw a punch at you, you say, oh gosh, I'm going to do technique number 342. No, you're just going to react. And you're either going to react properly or improperly. And you're going to know because if you're standing up after it, you did okay. If you're on the ground knocked out, well, you didn't do so well. So you really want to get that down first, develop that muscle memory. And the way you're going to do that is through realistic training. Ramp it up slowly. And I always tell my guys, I go, fast is slow and slow is fast. So if you're doing it fast and rushing through, not putting any emotion, just kind of going through the motions and doing it fast, you're not going to learn it. You want to start slowly and ramp yourself into it, making it faster and faster, more intense, more intense, more intense, so that when you do get attacked, you do have to use it, it takes over, and you don't have to think. Thinking is taken out of the equation.
Right. And so you're saying that repetition is fundamental in the dojo? Obviously, yeah. But do you
moving forward?
Yeah.
Once you do that, if you want to, you want to really test your skills. I mean, I'm not going to, recommend you strap, $100 bills to you and walk through Central Park at midnight. But if you want to get into that, then I would go and do that. And the thing is, I have my program Survival Strong. In order to get certified in that, you have to have had some real combat under fire. Like you had to have some real experience. Like if you're like a forms champion or something, or you did self-defense in your basement or something, you can't be an instructor in this. You have to have actually done real combat. And when I'm talking about real combat, I'm talking about you had to get into a Muay Thai ring. You get knocked out there. You have bodily harm to you. You were a wrestler. You competed in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I have minimums that they have to do. You were a kickboxer. You were, active duty military. You saw some action. You were a police officer. You were a professional bodyguard. Bouncer. Things like that. You have to have had some real life experience so that you know what it's like when the S hits the fan. Okay.
Right.
Have you ever been in a situation?
I have, but never in a situation that, only in high school, but that was when I wasn't even training, so I never really had a chance to apply technique. So
what happens is I call it the whir, and I actually talk about it in my book. And what happens is you get tunnel vision. It's close in, and they start going in slow motion. It's really funky what happens, especially when you're trained, and you're just almost like in a fog, and you're just reacting. It's because of your adrenaline rush, the blood flow, your capillaries are open.
Before you continue, actually, I did kind of get into something. It wasn't really a situation, but I was doing sparring last week, and I've been doing striking for about 10 months, 11 months consistently now. And I was doing striking at my dojo right here in PA called Hybrid MMA.
Oh yeah, good place.
Oh,
Yeah. Cool. Well, I still corner guys. Yeah, I just had a guy win Fight Club champion a couple weeks ago.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I was I was doing some sparring, and I had a coach, Dave, his name is, and he basically had me and a pro boxer spar.
Yeah.
And this guy's been doing boxing for 10 years. I've been doing, like I said, 11 months. And sometimes, when the guy's aggressive, he puts in a little more thump to the punch.
Right.
And if you're kind of like the lower end guy, you'll say, hey, chill out a bit, or you'll be like, hey man, lower it down.
Yeah.
And things will go swell from there. But every once in a while you kind of want to, and what I did was I was like, you know what? So I kind of returned the amount of force I got.
Right.
And we actually ended up getting into it pretty much at 100%.
Yeah.
and for about 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, my coach at the end, he actually said, I'm not even going to interfere because I want you to experience how it feels. And I was in there, and I felt it, man.
Yeah.
For 20 seconds,
Right.
I was just reacting, and we
Yeah.
were going hard, but I was getting my head knocked like hard because I was in that war, like you
Yeah.
were saying.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's so now you know what you have to work on. You have to work on your defense and your movement.
Yeah.
So now you know. See, now you take that back to the shop and train, and you make sure that you get that training in. Like and I coach guys all the time, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, whatever it is we're doing. And then when they're under fire, okay, here's what you did. Let's go work on this now. And you address it in your training. So now you know you address it on keeping your hands up, probably retracting that punch a little quicker. Bring your hand to your chin to your hand, right? Pop, 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 or when you're out there. So you just want to make sure you're covered and make sure you're going offline. You're not just standing in front of them, because I'll guarantee you, it hit. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
That it hit when you got tagged, that you just went into like wild mode, maybe probably stood in the same spot and started bombs.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's
I
what
was
you
just getting.
Yeah, that's usually happens the first time guy really gets nailed.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is be able to be in the pocket and be cool in the pocket, because you're also going to remember this one: cooler heads prevail. No matter what, keep your cool. Cooler heads prevail. It's actually a passage that I go back to in my book all the time. No matter if it's in the ring, in a life, in the street, whatever it is, just keep your head cool and things turn out.
So let me ask you this, because I was thinking about this cooling concept. I would just, because like in Aikido and even in wrestling, they tell you when you're being thrown to just relax.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, in an actual situation, in a fight, it's so counterintuitive to just relax, but would you recommend that in an actual confrontation, is that like the most important place to be as relaxed as possible? Or is there a certain amount of rigidity that you have to implement?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're never going to be 100% relaxed, especially in a street situation. Anybody tells you that, they're a fool or a liar. Mm-hmm. Because, and I've had hundreds of confrontations. I've had hundreds in the ring and another 100 outside. Yeah. And, you're always getting that adrenaline rush. But it's being cool about it and handling it and using that energy, channeling that energy into the technique. That's what's going to help you. And you don't want to be relaxed like this, but you want to be relaxed enough so you can move. Because if you're too rigid, then you're not going to be able to move. Because listen, take your muscles, tense up as much as you can, and then try to move.
Yeah.
Slow, right? You have to relax and then tense upon impact. You want to have that tension on impact. So you do want to be relaxed but ready to go. And when you go, it's all out. It's all or nothing. That's where the difference is between a ring fight and a street fight. Mm-hmm. Ring fight, you may have to go, 3 rounds, 6 rounds, 10 rounds, whatever it is.
Right.
Street fight, 10 seconds.
Gotcha. And how much time would you recommend that a man train or dedicate to his training, let's say per week, if he wants to be able to walk down the street and feel comfortable about being able to defend himself? He
should be doing his like I consider hand-to-hand defensive tactics, including all your types of striking, your throwing, your grappling, your defensive maneuvers. He's got to do at least 3 times a week.
At least 3 times.
Yeah. Like I was a DCJ instructor, Department of Criminal Justice, for 5 years, so I would teach in the academies coming up. And, the cops would do their 6 weeks, and then a lot of them just never touched it again after that.
Right.
I mean, it's the wrong thing to do. They should be constantly working on that. And I think that would bring down the level of violent incidences with the police if they were a little better trained in the martial arts and knew how to apply them properly.
Oh, yeah, because you feel like maybe some of them overreact a bit?
Oh, yeah. And look, it's understandable.
Yeah.
And we'll defend most cops unless they do something really bad. But like if they were a little more skilled at the hand-to-hand, I think a lot of this stuff would de-escalate, and they would, not be so quick as to, use deadly force.
Right. And speaking on what's up,
and more confident, and they would exude that.
True. Right. And speaking of lengths of time for training, let's say a guy wanted to take it up a notch and actually work as a bouncer to get some real reps in. How long would you recommend that he experience that? Because say maybe he wants to be a doctor, but he can't really do that for years, but he just wants to do it enough so that he feels like he got some real reps in and he actually knows how it feels to, you know.
Well, I will definitely tell you this: if you're smart enough to become a doctor, don't be a bouncer. All right, just don't. Okay, I'm not going to recommend that someone who could be saving lives be out there, potentially getting killed. Because I mean, you're putting yourself in harm's way. When you're in a bouncer bodyguard, I would recommend him getting into some competitions where there's somewhat of a control, but still there's an element of danger. Look, if you know you could get knocked out or you get choked out, that raises your level there.
Right.
But I remember, I can't really say that I'd recommend someone who has that potential to put himself in that type of harm's way.
Okay, now we're back live. Yeah, so you were saying that you don't recommend a person that wants to be like a doctor to put himself in such a dangerous situation.
Yes, yeah, I wouldn't recommend that.
So, but would you recommend it for someone who doesn't necessarily want to be a doctor, but just,
Especially if they want to get into the field. I mean, nothing wrong with doing it. I did it for a long time, but be careful where you're at because, back in the day, they used to really watch out for the bouncers. And if you went and, you knocked somebody out or, had an issue, they would, the establishment would provide you with, attorneys and so forth and take care of your legal fees. Now a lot of places don't. So, you don't want to sit there and be making like, $25, $40 an hour and then spend $350 an hour on an attorney. It makes sense.
So you're saying it's not only just the physical risk, but now there's a lot more to it?
Yes. So you definitely want to know the establishment that you're tending to work on.
Right.
But and the other thing is too, see, when you're a bouncer, the main goal is not to fight. The main goal is not to fight.
Right.
I mean, even though I was in places where sometimes I'd have 3 or 4 fights a night, I tried not to have the fights. And someone would get out of line, and one of the lines I say to him is, "You're a good guy, aren't you?" And of course, even if he's the biggest jerk on the planet, he still thinks he's a good guy.
Right.
So he paused for a second. I'm like, "Yeah, man, why don't you just relax? You know what? I'll tell you what. I mean, you have to go tonight, but tomorrow night you come by, I'll get you a drink or a cup of coffee or something. So you want to quell the situation. Now, if he goes after me after that, well, it's game on.
Right. So you learn a lot of psychological stuff in human nature.
Yes.
Right.
You always try to bring it down, try to de-escalate.
Yeah. That's why I just feel like it's such an attractive experience because of the richness of the experience. Not only do you learn the physical stuff, but the mental and the human nature stuff. So, but just to conclude on this subject, would you recommend it at all as an experience for some, or is it something that you should just stick to if you're going to do it as a living?
Some people, want to do it as experience or a good part-time job. Look, I didn't do it full-time. I did it as a part-time job. I would do it, 3, 4 nights a week or 2 nights a week, depends on the schedule. And, I got some great extra money, and it saved me money from going out because I'd be out at the bar, and instead of spending money, I'd be making money. And the other thing is it was actually great for meeting females.
Oh, that I can imagine.
The thing is that, see, the difference a bouncer has over a regular guy over a patron. A patron can go to this bar that night and go somewhere else the next night and be gone, but the bouncer's always at the bar. So that security factor. Well, if I need to find him, I know where he is.
Right.
It's got a double-edged sword too. If you get some loony, she always knows where you are.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we got that, and obviously my channel's it's not just about martial arts or fitness. It's also about just being a man. And what are your thoughts on I'm just curious about your mindset, because when you're a man and you've been through your your kinds of experiences, you do a lot of pretty much what 99.9% of men don't do nowadays, but used to do regularly for history. But nowadays it's you can basically be a 500 pounds and still make a living and live relatively long without having to worry about too much. But you're just completely, if something were to happen, if shit were to hit the fan, you'd be in a messed up situation. So what are your thoughts on masculinity today and how do you feel about it?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I see a lot. Okay, and I've seen a lot. One of these statistics, it was out a month or two ago on one of the channels I was watching, or when they said, like they put guys from my generation and like 99% of them feel masculine. And then every 10 years they went lower, became less and less and less. And then they got guys in their 20s and like only 30% of them feel masculine.
Really?
Yeah, it was something crazy. I'm like, what the heck is that? I mean, it's all about, you know what? Hey, look, I'm all for equality and people having the right to pursue whatever they want to pursue. But you know what? The problem now is that they try to make you less of a man. Okay, the importance of a man is being diminished. Okay, there's different jobs are being taken away. The attitude. Look at 90% of the commercials. 90% of the commercials, you got some guy being made a fool of in the commercial. Look, I've been called a dinosaur, Neanderthal, whatever. Personally, I consider it a compliment. Okay, because I'm hard nosed, and and those same people are saying that stuff. If the shit hits the fan, they're going to be the ones hiding behind me, hoping I kick someone's ass to save them.
Right.
And this is an issue, And I mean, like when I was a young guy, man, I wanted to be the toughest guy on the block. I don't see that anymore. I don't see that anymore. Is it because becoming more civilized? I don't know. But then I look at like situations with ISIS. I mean, if I were allowed to sign up and join, I would be fighting them right now. But they will not have me. I'm too old. But I'll be doing something. Don't you worry about it. I got something in the works. So because these guys need to be dealt with, and they look at us and they perceive. I mean, we have weakness, and and it's being looked down upon for being masculine, being strong. Because every time a guy goes and be strong, oh, he's this, that, and the other thing. When a woman is, then they say, oh, well, she's standing up for herself, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying, look at this. I'm just gonna say, not to get too political, but whatever. It's my interview. Anytime Donald Trump says something, he's a fascist, he's a racist, he's a sexist, he's this, that, and the other thing. And nobody says anything about Hillary Clinton and all her bullying, her tactics. She can say anything she wants. He can't say anything. I mean, they're trying to just undermine the American male. They're trying to emasculate him. And guys look, why do you think guys are growing beards now?
I did notice that.
Right. Women can't do it. It's the only thing that we got that women can't do.
Yeah.
So guys are growing beards now because just at least prove that they got something that's making them different, something that's making them masculine.
100%.
So... I mean, guys got to just take themselves back and enough of this mamby-pamby crap. Just do it.
Yeah.
Listen, I've been almost penniless twice in my life, and I've rebounded. I mean, I was sleeping after my divorce. I was sleeping on the floor of my studio, eating dollar McDonald's, the dollar meal McDonald's to eat, bouncing till 3 a.m, getting up at 5 to teach private sessions. Do till 5 to 9 or 10, go back to sleep, and then go teach class again, and then go bounce again. So you know what? I mean, sometimes you just got to do what you have to do. Quit complaining, man. Be accountable for your actions, man up, and just go forward, and just don't take no for an answer. And everybody's afraid to assert themselves because of how they get looked upon. A guy asserts himself, he's a bad guy,
Mm-hmm. And on that note, what do you think are the most I guess the biggest enemies that would prevent men from becoming like that? Like, what are the enemies of masculinity to you? Like some of the things that
media.
The media.
The media. Okay, seriously, how is Bruce Jenner? And I'm going to say Bruce Jenner. How is he considered a hero? I mean, personally, I feel bad for the guy because he's tortured. Okay, anybody who needs to do that is tortured. But now I'm hearing that he wants to go back to being a full guy now. So, I mean, I think he's just doing this just for publicity reasons. But how is that person a hero?
You're talking about the ESPN award, right?
Yeah, I mean, come on. And then another thing, he got Woman of the Year.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I mean, that's a slap in the face to women. So the best woman is a man?
Oh, my God.
Seeing that, I don't know. Kind of crazy. I think the media is like, and they send mixed signals too, because they'll say someone's a hunk, right, who gives that appearance, but then when people come to being like that, they're shunned. They're called dinosaurs, Neanderthals. They're looked down upon,
Right.
by the general media. And I'll tell you, that's one of the things that's going to destroy our country is the media that we have and things that happen on social media as well.
Mm.
I mean, it's a great tools, but let's use them the right way.
Right. 100%, man. I got to agree on the media for sure. And all these things cause stress, I feel for the common man because, like you were saying, guys are growing beards now because it's like the only thing that can really differentiate us from women,
Right.
and kind of give us a feel of masculinity.
Mm-hmm. Look at the ads. Look at all the guys in these models in these ads.
Mm-hmm.
First time, half the time, I can't tell the difference between a girl and a guy. I mean,
100%.
I mean, look. Again, and of course now you say that, and all of a sudden you're homophobic. That's a bunch of crap too. Okay, it just is what it is. It has nothing to do with being homophobic. Everyone's got homosexuals in their family, and I mean, God, you want to marry whoever you marry, God bless you. You run with it. Go ahead, be happy, because it's hard enough to be happy in this life. So if you can find someone and have them be the same sex, good, you go for it. Whatever you're gonna do, you're gonna do. I could care less. But don't look down on me because of who I am.
100%.
Don't try to put me into a box, because I stand for something, and that's what's happening. I mean, I want to differentiate between a man and a woman.
Yeah.
I want to see the difference. Okay.
Sure.
I like the difference. Look, and you know what? We are created with different attributes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there's reasons for that. Okay? And of course, there are exceptions to every rule, but then the exceptions prove the rule.
Right.
But guys should not accept it. They shouldn't accept it, but they're being indoctrinated from a young age.
Mm.
I mean, look, I have 2 girls and a boy. You know what? I mean, I take them both all fishing. They all know how to shoot. My youngest one doesn't know how to shoot yet, but my older daughter and my son both shoot bow and arrow, shoot handgun, can shoot a rifle. They can do all that stuff.
Right.
But yet, there's certain things that they differ in, and it's a natural difference. It's something that they gravitate to. But some people don't. They'll, if they're of one sex, they gravitate toward what is not norm for that sex.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make them a bad person? No, not at all. It's just the way they're wired.
Right.
So that's, there are going to be X amount of the population that is attracted toward the same sex.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a choice. I don't believe it's a choice. I believe it's just the way that they are wired, and they help it. And but you can't look down on someone for that.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean you make everyone else be like that too.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel is happening, because they don't want to ostracize the small percentage of people. Mm-hmm. So they want to make everyone feel good.
Right.
Everyone gets a trophy attitude.
Yeah.
Not everyone gets a trophy in life.
Right.
Okay. So they're trying to just make everyone androgynous. That's not the way it's supposed to be. It's not the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. 100%. And I feel like that on that note of people have the choice, or people are wired to be like that. Mm-hmm. Funny enough, have you ever heard of Jack Donovan? He wrote the book The Way of Men.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. It's a book about masculinity, obviously, and tribe and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing about him is that he's actually a homosexual. Mm-hmm. But he's still, a manly guy. He's not at all flamboyant. And he actually said that he was against gay marriage because he feels that although gay people should have the right to be gay and stuff, they shouldn't be stoned like in some countries.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, he still feels like there shouldn't be a law for that because marriage is ultimately really about children. About
procreating. Yeah, but what if a gay couple that wants to adopt a kid?
Well, that's what he was saying. He was basically saying that he doesn't feel like it would be all that healthy for kids to grow up in an environment that's skewed by that, basically. And I say, like, yeah, I kind of agree on that. I'm not, obviously I don't have too many opinions on the issue, but it just goes to show that even if you're gay, like, you could still see that reasoning.
Right. No, I understand that. Yeah.
And I definitely agree, like, on how there is a very true value in, like, having diversity between men and women. Like, there is this push for men and women to be exactly the same.
And it's stressful on both of them.
Yeah.
It's stressful on women and on men.
100%.
And sending these mixed signals. And it's just, why don't we just let the natural course of things go? Mm-hmm. Just let things happen like they're going to happen, and things kind of go together. It's called nature.
Yeah.
We want to mess with stuff all the time.
And that's what I was thinking about Hillary Clinton. It's like, you want to put now, because of technology, and women can now, if they just study enough, they can be put in a position and act the role. But do we really want a woman to lead a nation when, traditionally speaking, men were always the tribal leaders that had to deal with war? Right. How are you going to have a woman now deal with war?
Right. I mean, look, if you look at it this way, the men did the hunting, the gathering, the warfare. The women were back, and they would take care of things at home. That's why they're more dexterous than men, because they're used to, like, doing the basket weaving, sewing, things like that. They're wired for that. In electronics companies, women are so much better at doing the soldering and so forth than men are, because of that, their dexterity. They raise the children, because if they weren't doing that, the human race would have died out long ago. Mm-hmm. Okay? If women were running around with pregnant bellies throwing spears at woolly mammoths, I think we would have never made it past that. Right. So this is the thing, that it's we're wired differently. There is a difference between us. And look, one of our greatest threats right now is ISIS and Al Qaeda, the radical Islamists.
Whoops, sorry.
And how do they view women? What does Sharia law say about women? Not much. So we're going to have our president, a female, dealing with these people. They're going to show her zero respect.
True that.
I know. See, people have to think about this stuff. You have to consider this stuff when you're looking at the safety and sanctity of the country.
And, like, women have to wear these shoulder pads in order to accentuate that freaking male form.
Right.
So it's like you're literally trying to be like a guy. Trying to be a guy.
Yeah. Why don't you just be who you are? Like, guys be guys, let women be women. You know what? And the other thing is, some of these things just drive me nuts. Like, people like get too wrapped up in some of this stuff. Listen, if we were running around the jungle getting chased by lions, and so we wouldn't be thinking about all this stuff. We're thinking about survival and what works best. And what works best is the guy out there doing it and the woman working, holding things down at the fort. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the way, that's the way we were built.
Yeah. And, it's funny, man. I actually had a date one day where, I met this girl, whatever, and we were hanging out. And have you ever heard of the book Iron John?
Iron John?
Yeah. It's just a book about, like, men and whatnot. It's kind of like a man psychology book, whatever. So I'm hanging out with this girl.
You pick those books because I live it, so.
Yeah, man, it's fine. I was just, you're living the life, man. So that's why I'm here. That's why you're here. So anyway, we were in Barnes & Noble's walking around, and I'm with this girl, and I see the book, and I'm like, oh, I read that book. And she's like, oh, yeah, what's it about? I say it's about, being a man. And I say that being a man is something that's kind of under attack nowadays. And she's like, oh, boo-hoo, men, they go through so much. And I'm like, let me guess, you're a feminist? And she's like, yeah, what, you have a problem with that? And I'm like, well, I don't really like feminism that much. And next thing you know, man, she just got really emotional. She started saying, how dare you, that you cannot say such a thing about women, and that men are being raised to think that it's okay to rape and kill women. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Where is that?
That's one of the huge things, is that they feel like all men are rapists, this and that. And I'm like, look, you're just getting really emotional and you're not even letting me talk. And eventually she just walked away. And that's the kind of situation I just want to say that if shit were to hit the fan, which at any moment, like
Good.
one earthquake, one anything,
A natural disaster, flood.
everything is returning to natural law. And you can't, all these artificial constructs of like, now it's okay for, you know, a guy to chop his dick off, be a woman. Now it's okay for a woman to, you know, be the leader of the household. All these things are going to fall by the wayside and get replaced by natural order, which is basically, you know, DNA changes at 1% every, I think, 10,000 years or something. So it really doesn't take much for that little illusion to go away.
Oh yeah, yep, yep, and it will happen quick. Let me tell you something. Look, you just see one thing that happens. You know, you have like a natural disaster. You see the guys taking charge.
Mm-hmm.
You see it happening. Okay, but the thing is, our guys have to be prepared for that. And you know what? There's so many guys that don't know how to, you know, turn a screwdriver the right way, use a hammer, build a shelf. You know, they just don't know how to do it. They're not being taught. They're losing those life skills. I mean, look, I'll just grab my stuff. I'll just go out and sleep in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll just take off. You know, my wife says I should be. You know, I was made to just live in the woods, in a cave, and I'm like, I'll be fine. You know,
Yeah.
you know, it's like it's what you do. You know, and you know, you should know how to hunt. You should know how to fish. You should know how to like operate weapons. You should know how to drive a stick shift. How many guys you know how to drive a stick shift?
I'll admit, I don't even know how to drive one.
See, I'm telling you, I learned to drive on a stick. I won't even get anything that's not a stick anymore. Just to prove a point.
Yeah.
Plus, it stops you from texting when you're driving, which you
Beautiful, beautiful. That's a good little add in there. And I know we're running out of time now, and I just want to ask you to basically, you know, how can guys get in touch with you? Like, how can people learn about you? How can they get your book? Even get some courses if they're in your area.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually do courses all over. I just got back from Italy. I did a seminar there. I'm doing one in Idaho. I'm doing a talk at the Health and Strength Conference in Minnesota. But basically, I'm real easy to get. PhilRoss.com. Okay. And my book, Survival Strong, this one, is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, online. And, you know, I'm on Facebook, you know, American Eagle MMA and Kettlebells, Survival Strong Official. Easy to find, PhilRoss.com. Yeah, Google me and you'll get me.
Awesome, man. I'm going to get your book as soon as we're done with this call.
Awesome.
I'm ordering it. And, man, I really appreciate this talk. This was awesome. You know, learn a lot about training and masculinity and just being a better man and being able to take care of myself physically and my loved ones. So,
yes.
Awesome talk. I really appreciate it. We'll keep in touch, and I'll let you know about this video soon, all right?
Thank you. Have a safe trip.
All right. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.